Great, thanks, guys. Today we're going to do a presentation about our new company, Zeus North American Mining Corp. We were newly formed in March of this year with our flagship projects in Idaho. I'll let you breeze over our forward-looking statements. So I'm part of a group of geologists and friends and financiers that when times are quiet, we get in our vehicle and we go drive around and we find projects. We staked 3 projects in Idaho in 2021, primarily for silver or base metals, with the opportunity to find a buried porphyry copper nearby. The 3 properties are named the Cuddy Mountain Property, the Selway Property, and the Great Western Property. As it stands today, our flagship property is our Cuddy Mountain Property. Why is that? Well, you'll see in a moment. Of course, some investment highlights. What we like Idaho. It's a great jurisdiction. We like the geology in Idaho. There's a number of past producing and soon to be producing mines. It has a great history and great geology. As I said, you can see it's produced over $1 billion in metals over time. It's one of the top mining friendly states. And of course, Hercules has helped by bolstering that by finding a new unknown porphyry copper belt in the US, which is, as you see, it's fairly significant. And I think a lot of people don't really understand the significance of that at this point. And, some people say, well, why Idaho? If you look, there's a lot of other great players in here. You've got Hecla, Integra, Liberty, Revival, Freeman, all these companies that have advanced projects that are very close to production. I'm sure Arlen and his committee are going to get into the fundamentals about metals, but obviously we like the fundamentals behind copper and silver. I think in the last 10 days, silver's gained over 10% alone. So, supply and demand issues with both metals look really good for the future. So we'll jump right into our project, the Cuddy Mountain Project. As I mentioned, it's our flagship project. We staked it in 2021. As you can see, we're the blue block there. Why did we stake it? We staked it for the exact same reasons that at the time, Hercules Silver staked their property, a number of high-grade silver showings in the rhyolite, with the chance of a buried porphyry copper. We staked our property like they did along the major thrust fault called the Bayhorse Thrust Fault. And then fast forward to 2023, fall of 2023, actually October 2023, a year ago, almost today, Hercules came out with the announcement that they discovered a porphyry copper system in the underlying Seven Devils volcanics, which lie beneath the mineralized zone that hosts the silver. So in the younger volcanic rocks that are not really exposed on their property. That's very significant for a number of reasons. Barrick came in, put $23 million into them as an equity financing, and we just happen to have the property adjacent to them. Before they announced their discovery, you can see that they ring staked us. Their initial property was actually about the same size as ours, and then you'll see as we talk further that this has become one of the biggest staking rushes that I've ever seen in my life. So over 60 kilometers of staking now in this belt, and all the players are there. So again, as I mentioned, why did we stake this property? Well, it was for these high-grade silver showings in the rhyolites. There's a number of historic workings there and some historic numbers. You can see the lead zone mine had silver lead grades of around 3.5 ounces per ton silver. There was some shallow drilling done there that came out with 2 ounces per ton silver. The Edna May mine, which has mineralization of lead, zinc, and silver. There's a number of things going on here. The rock slide area was primarily a copper showing with it's the complete side of the hill there is copper stained. So obviously we liked it for the silver potential, but moving forward, we also love it for the copper potential now that we're in the Porphyry belt. So what did Zeus do this year? Well, our 2024 exploration, we really just threw the book at it. We did property-wide soils, property-wide ground mag. We did property-wide rock grab sampling, staking, mapping, 3D IP. So we basically did everything that we possibly could to help us discern if the buried porphyry exists within our ground, and to be able to pick high priority targets for drilling next year. And this is really the crux of it. So what I'm showing on the left is the Hercules discovery drill section from 2023. That's their initial discovery hole was 2308. And as you can see, as I relate it to our geology map, as you go from the northeast side of our property, you transect down into the valley. And basically, we see the exact same exposure that Hercules has on their ground. So we go through the upper volcanic sequence, which hosts the silver mineralization. There's an unconformity, and it has a marker horizon called the red conglomerate. It's a volcaniclastic unit with hematite in it. And then you get down through into the Seven Devils volcanics, which hosts the porphyry mineralization. The pink strands on their section are quartz porphyry dikes or intrusions. It's a little bit, well, I guess they're still determining the way it's going, and I'll explain that a little bit more as we go further. But the real crux of this is that we get the same stratigraphy that they have in their drill section, where we have these mapped cross faults and structures. We see copper mineralization coming up along those. We see these quartz porphyry dikes on our ground. We see a few of them exposed, and they are mineralized with chalcopyrite or copper mineralization. So we know we're in the exact right spot, and now we're just going to be waiting for our results to pick our high priority targets. To further elaborate on that, because I know these maps are often hard to understand, I've annotated this one a bit. We're in one of these, another important feature of the belt is that we're in what's called an erosional window, where this area was covered largely by very, very young Columbia River basalts. And that's that dark purple stretch on the bottom that kind of rims our property. And there's a reason why the shape of our property, obviously that sterilizes what you're doing when you have a few hundred meters of young basalts covering everything. But as you can see, again, as we go from the northeast part of our project area and you come down, if you can imagine, as you go from northeast to southwest, you're walking basically down the hill. And as you go down the hill, you go through that stratigraphy that I showed on the Hercules drill sections, and you go through that upper younger rhyolite and andesite package. We actually see the red conglomerate exposed in places on our project area, which is the marker horizon for the unconformity. And unconformity is an age gap. So it's an age gap between different rock units. So there's been an erosion, some sort of an erosional gap there. And then you come down into the Seven Devils volcanics, which you can see that basically the valley floor for us is covered in the Seven Devils volcanics. We just get into the top of the Seven Devils volcanics. And what's important about that is when we see these cross structures, which we now know from Hercules, or these faults seem to be very important for controlling the mineralization, that we see copper mineralization coming up along faults and structures. The idea is that obviously that's leakage from a buried source. And I just wanted to throw this on to show that we're 1 year into a discovery, and so now I'm showing the same discovery drill section from 2308 from Hercules from last October, and now this is from this October, their current release, which shows that they drilled this hole 2406 And it just shows the complexity. Unfortunately, their colors don't match from year to year, but I think we can get the gist of what's going on. Is they're still trying to figure out what's going on. The geology is very complicated. These porphyry intrusions you see on the left, they have them as almost subvertical dikes. In this section, they have it as a giant intrusion before they get into the Seven Devils volcanics. So, and you can see that in places that younger cover, the andesites and rhyolites that I showed on our map up in the northeast, that they get thicker in places, and that could be a result of fold thickening. It could be a result of many things, but it's just wanted to show that, you know, the story is just building on this. Everybody as they do more work in this area, there's going to be a lot of interesting things come out. But I can imagine if I fast forward to 2025 and I show you the Hercules drill sections and hopefully our drill sections, that you're going to see a different interpretation again. So very complicated geology, but you know, the likes of Barrick and Rio and everybody being there in the picture just lends to the fact that obviously this is a significant discovery. So further to that, this is I guess this would be from September. This is our most current staking map. You can see I've done a bit of lumping here, but you can get the gist of it. We're the blue blob up in the northeast here, and this is Hercules surrounding us. This gray area down here is also Hercules, called Mineral District. But you can see that, you know, Rio's got a block here. I know Rio has another block down here that we haven't discerned. But this map is approximately 60 kilometers. And prior to what was going on here, it was really just Bay Horse Minerals down on the Oregon border, us, Hercules, and Scout. So there's been tens of thousands of claims staked here, mainly by Barrick, but you see Barrick and Rio. And, you know, we've also been talking to all the other majors, everyone you can imagine. Everybody's interested in this area. Again, what's the significance? This is a newly discovered porphyry copper belt in the US. It's unprecedented to think that somewhere that's seen so much exploration over time could find a new unknown porphyry copper belt. And why are they staking this giant area? Well, because there's going to be multiple volcanic centers that host the mineralization. There's going to be multiple deposits. Now, that's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen. You know, you already see interesting things coming from Nev. You see interesting things coming from, when you talk to Rio, you see interesting things from Scout. Obviously, Hercules has made the discovery. Obviously, we have the exact same components that they have, so we're hoping to make a discovery at it. So it's very significant, and the staking is still continuing today, which is crazy. And then I just wanted to throw this up there as a comparison to how quickly it's changing. This is our map from July, and that's the one I just showed in the previous slide is the one from September. And you can just see that, you know, see Barrick filed this giant block south of us. There's another block way out here that the staking continues for another 20 kilometers north of us. They filled in all these gaps through here. So it's insane. And like I say, our crews recently ran into Barrick people in the field still staking, trying to stake around us, which you know, they did do, obviously. So what's happening with our Cuddy Mountain exploration? This is a slide that we put in, you know, starting in March. Well, we did the acquisition. We did our 3D IP survey. Why is the 3D IP survey? Why do I talk about that? Well, that was one of the main things that led Chris to drill a deep hole in the area to see what the IP anomaly beneath the younger volcanic cover was, so that you know, so he could leave it to rest. And obviously that was it was sulfide body at depth, so pretty significant. We completed our mapping, our ground magnetics, rock grab sampling, soil sampling, everything, as I mentioned earlier. We completed a reconnaissance work on our other projects that I mentioned earlier, Selway and Great Western. And now we're just, as we're getting our results in, we're getting ready to release those and pick our high priority drill targets for drill permitting. What's our path forward here? You know, things that we have, catalysts that we have coming up. Obviously, we're always looking to strengthen our board, and I think I've started to get there, to get some interesting people to join us here. So we're going to strengthen our board this fall. We have our Cuddy Mountain results coming out. You know, our IP, our rocks, our soils, as I mentioned. We'll be submitting permits for drilling at Cuddy Mountain. We'll be coming out with results from Selway and Great Western. And as always, you know, we're always looking for great opportunities, and we're already evaluating a number of other projects as well to get in the pipeline. What's our value prop? Well, I mean, clearly, you know, we talk a lot about Hercules metals. Well, there's a reason. You know, they were at about the exact same place we were market cap wise and stock price wise when they made the discovery, and that ended up in the you know, a re-rating of 10 times. So and they still have a market cap of almost 200 million today. So obviously, with us discussing everything with a number of strategics and coming out with our results, we would hope that we would get a nice re-rating here in the fall with our results coming out. Here's our corporate structure. I mean, everyone can look this up. So everything's online. We have about 58 million shares out, and managers and insiders own about 10% of that. I'll just quickly touch on our other projects. Again, here's our 3 projects in Idaho: Selway, Great Western, and Cuddy Mountain. We've talked at end's length about Cuddy Mountain, which is great. Selway is a silver gold type of system, like intrusion related. Great Western is more of a carbonate replacement type style deposit. Like as I mentioned, we did some preliminary work on those to get to know them. But as a historic point of view, you know, Selway has high grade gold and silver as an intrusion related deposit. Great Western is more of a carbonate replacement style deposit with kind of bonanza silver and copper grades leaking up. So as I mentioned, that we also believe that both of these projects have the opportunity to have a buried porphyry. So we'll continue to evaluate and look at those as we go. And that ends my presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Well done. Just questions from the audience here is people are kind of looking for timing on summer exploration results, and I guess that would be on soils and rocks and your IP.
Yeah, within the next month for sure. Obviously, we started. Some people may or may not have seen. We had a press release today that sort of summarized what we did this summer. You know, with respect to the rocks and soils, obviously they were going into the lab as we were working. So we'll start to get those compiled here in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So we'll definitely see those in the near future.
Yeah, and you talked a lot about that they're learning every day still, right? Clearly, what did you learn from their last press release on their drill results?
Well, they have I think it's important to note that they have quite a different challenge than we have, in that they're almost 100% drilling blind. They don't have much outcrop. They're high up in the younger volcanic system. As I mentioned, as we go down through our system, you know, we know where we are in the stratigraphy, so we'll be able to drill much lower down the system, and that will be obviously saving us a lot of time and effort and headache, because they lost a lot of holes. And I think I learned that those cross structures that I talk about and those maps are very, very important. Very important from a mineralization point of view, probably a remobilization point of view. They're just you know, structure is king in a deposit. So
is that where you're seeing that copper leakage to the surface?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We have a whole number of those. It almost looks like a swarm on our map. All these cross structures, you know, which If you look at some of the Hercules stuff, they show Tom's fault in there because they lost a number of holes into it. So, but again, the importance is we'll be drilling from much lower down the stratigraphy. You know, they were drilling through this broken up rock through a fault zone for 3, 4, 500 meters before they're getting into pay zone. So
Yeah,
very complicated drilling.
huge advantage for you guys on that. I think. Got a couple questions here from the audience. Do you anticipate using RC or oriented core? Like I know Hercules has tried both and seen very success. And
Yeah, look, at early days, as a geologist, I always want to drill oriented core. I want to, as quickly as possible, try to figure out what's going on. I understand why they switched to RC and they're having better success now because they just weren't able to get through such thick cover and structural complexity, which is better for RC. But the normal, I would say these days, sort of the normal rationale for a geo is to start with core, and then when you're understanding or infilling, it's great to use RC because it's faster and cheaper. So a combo at the end of the day is the best.
yeah, you've drilled a lot of meters in your life, Dean.
Few, yeah.
What do you love about Idaho
Oh,
and the
well,
geology?
I love being able to look. I worked for 20 plus years in the Arctic and Siberia and all these weird places in the desert in Africa, and I love that the people are nice and you can drive to the project. I mean, and you know, despite despite people saying that there's all these NGOs and whatever out there, that you know, these communities around here are very open armed to exploration there and what's going on, and they're excited.
Yeah. Can you talk about the permitting process and when you hope to be kind of turning rigs?
Yeah, we're on Forest Service land, so that is a process for sure. We would do our initial permit as a categorical exclusion, which is a faster version of a plan of operations. So definitely hoping to drill late next summer.
Mm-hmm. And how are you going to raise the money to do that?
Well, a combination. I think our results are going to speak for themselves, but I also think that hopefully getting some strategic investments really going to kick that off.
I'm certainly surprised by that staking activity, and I think that's something the market really hasn't seen or has a good handle on, is just how heavily Barrick's involved in this play. What do you think they spent so far? If
I
you're,
don't know, you
if
know,
you were
it's
to
going to
guess, like
be
they got
30, 40 million
wow.
easily. And they were helicopter staking, which they don't even need to do there, but for speed, it's obviously better. But you know, we're 12 months in and they're still staking. It's kind of insane.
Mm. How far is your project actually away from those results that they put out?
It's about 3 kilometers.
Well,
Yeah,
3 kilometers. So you're right there.
yeah, we're right there beside
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Cool. And then I guess the main target was along that Bay Horse that thrust fault. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's why we've been seeing staking all through there. Hey, cool.
Yeah, and so that's the really, if you had a map that just showed the Bayhorse thrust, it starts down at Bayhorse Resources and at the Oregon border, and it basically forms an S, which is the exact shape of the staking in that belt. And you know, the other thing to realize is Barrick's also staking a lot of what we call in Canada moose pasture, because they're staking a bunch of areas that are completely covered by these younger Columbia River basalts. So again, it was important for us to be in one of these erosional windows, and Hercules is the same, obviously, but they're going to have a lot of sterilized ground. And, you know, I think, you know, my last conversation with them was something like, well, we're just going to cover the puzzle and then we'll pick the pieces we want. So,
Yeah, right on. That's it for questions, Gene. Great job. I'm looking forward to seeing results. I'm a shareholder, obviously. And I think this is a really exciting district that's been uncovered. And let's hope it continues positively.
cool.
Okay. Thanks,
Thanks
Dean.
for having me.